This here is a Shimano Rollerbrake. It's Shimano's idea of a drum brake. And I just rescued this from my blue scrap metal container. And I actually took it from a Union bicycle not that long ago. And I thought I could have a look, see how this thing works. I also have the matching front hub. It has splines here, and they just fit together. It's kind of nice. It's modular. It's not like a Shimano Archer setup where you are kind of forced to use the drum brake. And here you can see the Shimano Rollerbrake next to a Sachs front hub setup. This is a VT 5000. With the Shimano you can easily take it off and switch to a front caliper brake without lugging around this heavy thing. And well, these drum brakes and roller brakes, well, they brake, but they can be rather hard on the front fork in my experience. So a setup with only this simple front hub might be preferable. The Shimano Archer front hub looks very similar to this Sachs one, although this one is made from aluminium and Shimano Archer hubs are mostly chromed. And in my experience they can rust rather bad. But just like the Sachs one, the front brake is not removable. This is an eyelight front wheel from SRAM, and it has this huge drum brake setup, and it is removable. I'll show you. This axle has two different sizes, so you can just take off the nut. And now I should be able to take off the drum brake. And of course it's a bit more work than with a Shimano Rollerbrake, because you also have to remove these 4 screws. And this is how it looks without the drum brake. I guess that bearing lost some of its protection, but I guess it will be fine. Now this here is a Shimano Nexus generator, and it has these splines, so this roller brake can fit right on here. Perfect, very easy, clean and simple. And of course I'm digressing, so I will probably end up with a long video again. But my goal for today, on this rainy, miserable day, is to see if I can figure out how these roller brakes work. I actually have a bicycle with these roller brakes, and this messy and complicated lever is actually very simple to set up. Somehow it works. There's a grease point here, and I assume it takes some sort of heat resistant grease. On this side there is a rubber grommet. It's probably some kind of shield to keep the dirt out. I can just pull it off. And here's a closer look at the insides. This kind of looks like a nut that is being rotated by moving the lever, and that pushes against these rollers, and I guess those rollers in turn are being pushed onto the outside. Let's see if I can open this thing up. I don't see an easy way to take off this metal cover. I probably have to force it off. Maybe I can pry it off with a screwdriver. Yeah, that worked. Huh. Let's see, there's a spring here. There's another spring here. Some kind of metal thread that keeps things in place. Yeah, it's another spring. I guess those are the brake pads, if you can call them that. There's still some black grease on here, just like in a coaster brake. So here's how this thing is working, as far as I'm understanding it. When you're using the brake, you're moving this lever here, and that in turn rotates this hexagon shaped piece, and that is pushing against these 6 rollers. And of course this disc here is turning with the wheel, and in turn all of these rollers are pushing against a little brake pad that is in contact with this drum. It looks aluminium, but I'm not sure. There might be a steel insert in here. There is definitely a circlip that is holding all of the brake pads together. I think this is a nice and elegant design, and there are certainly a whole lot more points of engagement than compared with a classic drum brake. Now, how do I disassemble this thing any further? I think somehow this drum needs to come out. And it almost does. But not completely. So here you can see that circlip that is holding the brake pads together. And next I'm going to try and see if I can remove this spring or clip. Maybe then the whole assembly will fall apart. Well, it's not that simple. After taking off this little spring, it is close to coming apart, but I haven't found the magical trick just yet. Somehow it is still being held together. Disassembling this roller brake is kinda complicated. and it is definitely more interesting than a Sudoku puzzle. As you can see, some of these rollers have come out. I'm not sure if this is the way forward, but it is some sort of progress. So I think I will remove them all and see what result that gets me. As you can see, I finally got it apart. After taking out all of these rollers, the thing was still stuck, but after some more prodding and poking with my screwdriver, at some point it all came apart, just like magic. And as you can see, there are not 6 individual brake pads, one for every roller. There's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And this here, the inner part, that's the carrier for the rollers. These things look like little batteries. After cleaning up the grease and inspecting the drum brake, it turns out there isn't a steel insert in here, because, well, this whole inner part here is from steel and only the outer bit is from aluminium. Here you can see it a bit better. I think this is somehow pressed together. I did call this a hexagon shaped part, but it is definitely a bit more complicated. So these here are all of the parts that make up a Shimano Inter-M BR-IM41-F roller brake. I hope somebody found this somewhat interesting, and well, I did learn a few things, and now I'm going to try and reassemble all of this for YouTube fame and fortune, and after that this can go back into my blue scrap metal container, because, well, that is where it came from, and that is where it will go back to. I guess it's all part of the worldwide Chinese metal cycle. So apparently the most difficult part of reassembly is getting these tabs, and there's 3 of them, 1, 2, and the third one is here behind the lever. Getting them back inside the brake shoes, here, here and here. I'll see if I can get this done. As you can see, I managed to get everything back together. One of these universal tools will come in handy. They're also good for smashing in heads. And shooting some video to remind yourself how these springs go back together is also a good thing. Next I need to close up the patient. Yeah. I'm not going to do that because I'm risking spilling my tea. And last but not least, this rubber piece should go back on the other side, like this. Installed. Alright, I'm done. I'm done playing with this Shimano Inter-M Rollerbrake. Thanks for watching, like, share, yada yada yada, and to be continued.